What up, brothers and sisters, and welcome to From Dreamer to Fame, the journey to content creation. Please, let me introduce my other panelists. All the way from the Netherlands, we have Ashlizzle. Make some noise, please.
What's up, Lone?
All the way from Poland, we have Skura, also known as Islands in Front. And this lady needs no introduction at all the way from Portugal, we have Filipa. Make some noise, please. Thank you all for joining us. We're very happy to be here. Are there some content creators amongst you or people who are trying to become content creators? I see some of them here.
Right there is one, right there.
Right there? Yeah, there's so much light. Yeah, there's like... Does anybody know this dude? Do we have a spot for this dude right there? I think. So I'm very happy to be here. We want to talk about a little bit about content creation. And we have like a variety of content creators here. We have Filipa, who is half-time YouTuber. She also has a real job, right? So, we have Skura, who also is like a half-time content creator. And Ash and I are actually full-time content creators. And we're very blessed to do that full-time. Yeah. So Skura, also known as Islands in Front. You're doing content since 3 years now. Playing Magic since 10 years. You're a caster for the European Championships, right?
That is correct, yeah.
And you're also a writer, so I would say let's talk a little bit about writing for Magic. So who are you writing for? What exactly are you writing? And
yeah, so I've been writing for Card Market for the last 3 years, and it started very prosaically. I messaged Card Market and said, well, are you looking for a writer? And they said, well, we might. Send us a sample. And send I did. They said, good enough. You're on board. Awesome. And from that point on, I've been writing for them for 3 years. And then I also wrote for Spike's Academy. I've also been writing for like a year for MTG Zone. So I write for both paper formats and non-paper formats. And the best thing about writing is that there is no uncertainty monetization-wise, right? Because when you get into content creation and you've got at least some dreams of monetizing it.
Yeah, we would talk about that a little bit
so here
later.
there are no dreams. Like you're monetized from the get-go, right? You get paid.
I mean, we're talking from dream to fame, so dreaming is the start of it all. But you brought up a good point about just being straightforward, just talking to the people, just not wait for them to come to you, but you have to go somewhere.
I've been doing that my whole career, not only in Magic. Just approach people and ask them if they maybe need you. Because there's so many people that the chance you're going to be headhunted are just minimal.
That's true.
But if you ask them, well, do you need somebody like me who does this, this, and this? They might just say yes. The worst case, you say no, and you move on. Or, actually, the best case, you say, well, let me message you back, let's say, in half a year to check back, which I've also done multiple times, and also works, by the way. So be persistent, and don't take no as like a definitive answer.
That's a good point. Well, if it comes to content creation, of course. Filipa, you're a content creator since more or less 3 years now. You've been playing Magic since 10 years, so your whole life, actually.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, what are you exactly doing, and how did you get into it?
So right now I'm doing mainly YouTube and casting for Legacy European Tour, which is like the tournaments here in Europe. And I do have a day job, so I'm like these midnight aunt is perfect for me with the day and night tokens, because by night I'm doing finance, by day I'm doing finance, by night I'm doing content creation for Magic. My coworkers still ask me to do tricks for them. I'm like, that's not the kind of magic that I do, but sure, I can try. And yeah, I'm just started because COVID, you know, that thing that happened, and it was really tragic, and I didn't socialize with anyone, so I was like, I like playing Magic, I like making friends, so let me just stream for my friends. And then some people decided to join and watch for some goddamn reason that I don't know what reason it is, and I'm here today. And as Skura said, and very well, it's about asking and taking all the opportunities. We have some very known streamers here on stage as well, and the big names kind of help these small names that are starting, and we have a very nice community in Magic. And now I just do YouTube, arena videos. I love playing Commander as well. Sometimes I'm on some Commander shows. And yeah, mainly casting.
That's awesome. We also have Ashlizzle here.
Hi.
You're playing Magic since 5 years, which is a good time
Yes,
because I can relate to
yeah,
that.
we
so-
spoke that both of
Yeah.
us started at Guild of Replica.
The exact same
Yes,
day,
yes, yes,
actually.
yes.
Like I checked it, and
the
it was
exact same day. Sure.
So you're
Sure.
a full-time streamer on Twitch, right?
Yes,
Since
yes.
5 years now. So how did you get into that, and how did it turn into Magic streaming? Because you did something else
I
before,
started
right?
with a bunch of different games before. I actually played an FPS game when I started off, but it was more a thing for me. They are saying it as well. It starts off with passion, right? It's not just I'm going to start creating because I want to make a lot of money or I want this to be my
Yeah, that's
full-time
the wrong
job.
job, yeah,
It was just I did it because it was fun. And I enjoyed creating content. I enjoyed having people in my chat talk to me. So that's how you start off. You have the passion for it. Eventually, I played a bunch of, it wasn't, as a matter of fact, that FPS game that I played, I got so tired of playing with other people. I need a game by myself. Like everyone just throws their games away. I'm like, I can't do that. So I decided to get into card games, and eventually I got to Magic. And yeah, at that point I already had somewhat of an audience, so I had a slight advantage. But at that point, it just kind of took off because the Magic community is great. Like that's one of the bigger reasons that I'm still doing this today is that the community is so incredible in Magic the Gathering in general. Yeah.
Also, you told me that you're one of the top most watched streamers on Twitch, right?
Yes, technically
So
yes.
can we
but
get some noise for that,
Nah,
please?
nah,
I mean, hey,
nah.
that's pretty impressive, you know.
Nah.
Like, Magic is like not small, but like there's so many like games that people watch on Twitch like every single day that
Right.
are just like drawing more eyes onto them. So it's very impressive to be like.
No, it's true. It's true. But one of the advantages, and maybe if other people here want to be content creators as well for Magic, Magic is so chill to stream. It is so chill. You can just sit back, talk to the chat. If you're playing an FPS, you have to be on it the entire
Yeah,
time.
that's
You can
true.
just chill. You can easily do like 6-7 hours of just making content.
That's
It's
a
very
lot
nice.
of streaming. Like,
It is true, but it's fun. And, you know, that's what it's about at the end of
do
the
you
day.
stream every day?
6 days a week, yeah.
6 days a week.
6
so
days a week, 6 hours.
So it's actually a full-time job.
Yep.
So a lot of people always like underestimate how much work actually goes into content creation.
Oh, a lot more goes on around that. I think I work about 10 hours a day.
So
'Cause,
I want to talk about myself a little bit. I know, boo, but I'm also a content creator. Some of you might know me as MTG Malone or Matches Malone on YouTube. I actually started also 5 years ago, and I was inspired by this little YouTuber, Covert Go Blue. I don't know if some of you know him, and I watch his content all the time. And at a certain point, I searched for an output for creativity because I moved in another town and lived there. And I just started, as you said, out of passion for playing Magic and doing content. And when I started, I just had the plan to just do a video every day, you know, just steal a formula and try my best to adapt it on my style. And at the beginning, like, it's normal. Like, you can't expect people just to show up to your show, in parentheses, to your show and just be there and say, oh yeah, another Magic YouTuber or another Magic streamer, of course I'm going to watch him. That's like nothing you should expect. So at the beginning, like, my first videos had like 50 views in a week, and I was hyped for that. So that is also something that you should always keep in mind, that the small success that you can have, every single step you take is important. And it's always going to be a little bit wavy, and now I'm very happy that I could make it my full-time job, like after 2.5 years. I'm still doing YouTube every day, and I love it, and I'm very, very blessed to do it every single day. So for me, the most important thing that I can say, it's a passion, and if you're lucky enough to keep your passion alive, maybe one day you can like make a job out of it. Even halftime, like even doing it in halftime, having the passion, I think that's also like a lot of work. Like you go to work, and then you come home and you decide to sit down and make more content. Like, how is that for you, Filipa, for example? Like, do you have certain days where you record your videos for YouTube and say, okay, Monday is my YouTube day, and then the other days I go to work, or do you do it after work? Like,
Yeah, so I have to do it after work because I work 9 to 6. So in Europe, instead of 9 to 5, we do 9 to 6, and we have like a lunch break. So then I record some videos for YouTube after. On the weekends, I go to shows. And right now, I'm going to switch my full-time job to be part-time to dedicate more time to Magic. But definitely, it took a lot of knowing and hard working that I have to do it additionally to my full-time job because we cannot start thinking we are going to make money right away. And it's a lot of work, but also, as they said, you need to have passion, because I've been streaming for 3 years or making content for 3 years, but I've been actually playing Magic for 10. So 7 of those years I just played Magic not to create content, but just because I love playing Magic. And that's the main thing of it. It's you have to love the game to be able to make good content that somebody's going to want to watch. And yeah, I'm excited to now go part-time and have more time to create Magic content. And my coworkers are also my biggest supporters, because my manager, she's like, okay, where are you going to next? Barcelona? She's like, okay, you need some days off, right? And they could be super against it, but are my first supporters and biggest fans. Probably they will watch these on YouTube. Hi, manager, thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate you.
Huge shout out to Filipa's manager, yeah. Also, you travel a lot for the casting, right? Just as Skura does. So where have you been this year, Skura? Like,
So I was in Valencia, I was in Bologna, I was in Athens, and that's just the last like a month and a half. Also Barcelona now. So I've been traveling a lot. Like the last 2 months, so June and July, I had like 1 week off, actually just 1 week off. I also cast tournaments in Polish. So I was, I cast one of the Polish tournaments as well. So that took a weekend off. So a ton of traveling. And at some point you're thinking, well, I would like to take a week off for myself, just stay at home. Which is nice, because you start appreciating what you've got at home waiting for you. So that's a cute part of it. Yeah.
That's true, yeah. I think like, as we already talked about, like people forget how much work it actually is. You're also traveling a lot, right? Like I saw you at least traveling 3 times.
Recently,
yeah. Okay,
recently,
you're going to events. How do you do it with like streaming? Like, I mean, you have to take time off.
I have a portable setup. I have not taken more than 2 days off in 5 years.
Oh, crazy.
I have my laptop, I have a secondary monitor, and I just camera, microphone, take it everywhere.
So you just bring your whole gear to wherever you're going?
I bring my gear, yep.
Do you have it here in Barcelona?
Yeah, I do.
You're
live tonight.
Streaming tonight?
Live tonight, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's crazy. So there you go. That's like a perfect example for how much work actually goes into it. Like, for example, if I want to leave and I want to put up a video every single day, I have to pre-produce.
Yeah.
So I can just do that in advance. But actually bringing your gear to where you're going, that's crazy.
I think where was I? I think I was for Bologna.
Amsterdam.
No, I was in Bologna for the...
Oh, recently, yeah.
The hotel room didn't have a desk. I sat on the ground for 6 hours. 6 hours on the ground. I had my suitcase and I put everything on top of it and I sat on the ground.
But that is also something that people appreciate, right?
Yeah,
that you're going the extra mile, and they like can be certain that every day that when they wake up, they can be certain there will be a live stream.
Yeah. That loyalty builds up if you give them the same loyalty back, which is pretty important when creating content in general, right?
That is true. Yeah, I think that a lot of people, like what I want to go to next is a lot of content is more like, especially in Magic. Like if you're a good Magic player, you can just like tune in at the beginning, see the deck, and then say, okay, I don't have to watch the video or the live stream because I know how the deck will play out.
Yeah.
So what is most important about that is like actually entertaining the people and just being able to build a connection to the people and give them a reason to come back and to stay until the end. So I think that's very important. So for example, to talk about YouTube like once ago, I would just like circle around all the time. I hope that's all right with you. Would you say it's more important to build a good deck or to be entertaining? Or how would you say, like percentage-wise, you would like categorize these two?
So I think first with Magic, because Magic you have so many different formats and everyone is kind of a different level. So you cannot produce the same content that you would do for someone that is, for example, over there playing the Pro Tour as someone that just opened Arena for the first time or went to their pre-release for the first time and just wants to know how to play the game for the first time. So you kind of have to choose what audience you're targeting and then go from there and try to be entertainment, but at the same time provide some entertainment that in the end of the day someone can learn from it. I think that's the main goal. I had some actually parents reach out to me saying like, oh, my daughter is starting to play Magic and we watch your videos to learn, and that's the best compliment someone ever gave me, which I think I was a teacher, so the teaching part is very important, and when someone like says they learned something from me, that's when I feel very good. But obviously that comes with entertainment, because if you're boring, if you're not doing anything, unless you're like super professional and you're like really high up there in terms of being the best player in the world, then they just watch, even if you're not entertainer. Nobody cares, right?
That's true, yeah. I think that's also like a very important part. Like, as you said, the entertainment is important, but also like if your decks or the gameplay that you're showing. I mean, maybe some of you don't want to do Magic content, like we also have to talk about that. Like whatever game you're playing, you still have to be kind of good, I think. Or you're just so entertaining that people would just be drawn to you, and the video will be like just background, you know. How do you do it with writing? Like you write articles about decks, or are you writing articles about like Pro Tour? Or
Oh, multiple topics. So actually I began writing about game theory.
about game theory
Because
stuff,
I
all right.
really like the way technically games work. And so I began talking about stuff like, trying to define tempo, or maybe, diminishing returns, or like function of cards when deck building. So those type of mistakes people make, and I'm really passionate about those topics. One of my personal favorite article, which I highly suggest that you read, is Luck and Skill in Card Games, and how these two characteristics intertwine because they're not mutually exclusive. And so I started writing with these, but then after some time, these are very difficult pieces to write. It has to be really well thought out. I also have teaching background, so that helps. It's much easier to explain concepts when you've got teaching background. But after some time, I got the info from my editors that, well, these articles are not read as much as we would like them to, because people just prefer different things. People who are interested in game theory content are very spiky. They want to understand the intricacies of what's going on and how it's happening. So right now, mainly I write deck guides, sideboard guides. So for example, for MTG Zone, for Card Market, I write short pieces about decks. And that's a very easily consumable piece of content, because it's 300 words. That's a deck which is new in Modern. That's roughly what it does. Deck list, there you go. And people are really, really happy to read those. But still, I am happy to have written those previous pieces, because they are out there, and I can always tell people to read them.
That's a very, very good point. If I look back at my very first video, some people just, I don't want to toot my own horn, but some people say that I'm very entertaining when I'm doing my videos. And if I look back at my very first video, I cringe because I was so boring. I didn't even, I had no intonation. I was just talking oh yeah, hello, this is my deck, you can enjoy it. But as you said, I'm very happy that I did those videos before. I will also never delete them. They're part of my history, but because of them I learned. And then there's parts where you say, okay, you rewatch all their videos and you can see your own growth, and I think that's very important, because you don't just do a video and just do well right away. You don't just start streaming and there will be 1,000 people. It's not overnight that you become a top 10 streamer, you know? And also you said something else that I thought was very important. It's about the people consuming, actually. Of course, we all start with a passion, but if you want to go full-time, there is a point in time where you have to decide, am I doing it for myself or am I doing it for the other people? When was the point where you realized that you're doing it, not only for yourself, but also for other people?
For other people as well. I mean, I always did it for other people in general, me at least. Because one of the important things that we actually missing out, which applies much more to streaming, I think, rather than anything, no matter what you do, you always have to act as if you're streaming from one person, let it be the same as if you're streaming for 1,000 people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just one of the important things when being entertaining, when we're talking about that. You look back at yourself and see that you're boring. But especially if you're doing streaming on Twitch, you have to, you just don't even, there's been days, or bad days, especially when I started off, I just turn that viewer number off. I don't look at it, I don't do anything with it. And I act as if there's hundreds upon hundreds of people watching me, so that you can always put out the same content. And for me, a big part of that, and I think that's one of the more appealing things about streaming in general, is that direct contact with people.
Absolutely.
Right? That immediately, you always speak to them. A huge part of my streaming, which is why I love streaming Magic, you can always talk to people. You can answer them directly, and it immediately creates that bond. And if you say, you see a familiar name, you'd be like, hey, how's it going, welcome back, something like that. All of a sudden you create a connection with your audience, and then you get that loyalty back in return.
Absolutely,
which is different for YouTube, I imagine, but for streaming, it's a huge part of it, in my opinion.
I mean, the weird part about doing YouTube videos is that you're actually, if you don't have a team sitting around you that is filming you,
Yeah.
but for example, for me, I just have a camera, lights, and my computer. I sit there, and I'm actually talking to myself all the time.
Yeah.
I don't see results until the moment that the video gets released and the days after. So I always have to act there's a lot of people watching me right now. For example, also one of the things you always have to learn is like look into the camera as if you were looking to a person, for example.
Right, yeah.
That is also something that like engages people to stay because they feel looked at, you know?
Right,
and
right.
Because the one person sitting there watching the video or watching the stream only sees itself. So, or maybe like the children that they're watching with and learning something from you. But usually it's just like this one person consuming your content, sitting there and just enjoying, hopefully enjoying what you're doing. I mean, there's also like mean people. That's also something that I want to talk about later. But I think that it's very interesting to have this stark contrast also between streaming, where you have direct numbers, like you actually see the results right away, and doing YouTube, where you're just gambling that the video you did will just, like, you know, be good, or hopefully be good.
But
I mean,
there can also be a downside to that, though, because sometimes I'm doing something that I love on stream, and then ooh, those viewer numbers are dropping, and you're like, oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. I gotta go back. So on one end, there's a double-edged sword, kind of.
Actually is.
Yeah.
And the double-edged sword is also like a good segue to.
Exactly.
There will always be also negativity. Like I think every single person that does content will always have like people complaining about what they're doing. I mean, you can be the smallest YouTuber or streamer. There will be somebody that tells you that what you're doing is stupid, or that what you're doing is like you're the worst Magic player ever. But there will always be like one person at least who said that you're their biggest star, you know, you're the one person, and that gives so much energy. But I think what's very important is also like this mental health part of it, to just distance yourself a little bit from the negativity. How do you work with that? Like, how do you ignore negativity, or are you acting on it? Like, if somebody says that you're the worst Magic player ever.
Oh yeah, I've heard that a lot. I probably am though. So there's a point. I think first of all, like, if any of you watching wants to create content, you're going to have negativity. That's true, because some people just love spreading hate, especially on the internet, and that's always going to happen. And also, your biggest enemy sometimes is going to be yourself. Sometimes I record myself and then I rewatch it and I'm like, oh no, my voice, I cannot hear this girl anymore. And it's me, my voice, I just don't like it. And I know so many people that even if you're not creating content, if you have a video of yourself and you just rewatch it, you usually don't like your own voice. And then if I go back and watch my first videos, they were terrible. Now they are terrible, but not as terrible. So, you know, and that's going to happen. You're going to, in the beginning, create content, probably for no one, because I've streamed with 0 people watching, and I'm like, hey, how are you all doing? And no one, you know, crickets on the other side, and I just had to try to keep on a show. That's going to happen a lot. So at Twitch, when I was streaming, I just stopped looking at the numbers. Like, I don't want to know. If nobody's watching, that's okay. I'm just going to try to have fun. And when someone is negative, I'll be honest, especially when I'm casting, because it's such high-level tournaments, if I see someone like, oh, Filipa is not doing a good job, or who is this girl, she doesn't know anything about the game, that is going to let me down. But then what my boyfriend always tells me is, like, my biggest supporter is like, Filipa, like, come on, let's be objective, okay? Let's be objective. Let's go to all the comments. You have this person that doesn't like you, and then you have 100 that are like, you're so cool, I want to meet you. God knows why, but okay.
But that is exactly that, right? That one comment, like, you know, if you're like in a very comfy bed around with all the comments, but there's one knife in that bed, you will feel that knife, like it will hurt you. And you have to learn to ignore that. So I think it's very good that you say that you have somebody that just shows you, because a lot of times content creators are a little bit alone with what they're doing, because you're sitting in your room all alone. It's not like you're in one room and then next to you is like another content creator, unless you're like very blessed, you live like in a content creator house, there's stuff like that happening, but usually you're all alone with yourself. And you have to learn to work around that, you know, and if to have somebody that shows you, hey look, there's like 50 people who enjoy what you do, and there's like one person complaining, like let them be a Karen, whatever, it doesn't even really matter. Do you have like ways that people can interact with you when you're doing your writing, or like will there be comments? Are there people writing you on Twitter and saying, dude, whatever you said, it's totally wrong, or why are you playing this card? Is that something that happens to you when you're writing?
Yeah, it does. So there are comments below articles usually. There are also Discords. So for example, for MTG Zone, there is a Discord where people can just react or ping me and ask some questions. And so it does happen. But the only thing, and I've said it actually multiple times to those people, I'm happy to take any criticism if it's done in good faith. So, for example, if I made a mistake, it could be an obvious mistake. For example, no, I copy-pasted the wrong mana base, whatever. It can happen. Like for people who've done content, it happens. And if they, in good faith, say, well, just to let you know, there is a mistake, the wrong mana base is in place. Okay, thank you very much, I'll change it. That's good. But sometimes they do it in bad faith, trying to make it sound annoying, trying to make me look bad. And in those cases, it can really let you down. So whenever somebody says something in good faith, I'm really happy to engage, have a discussion, at the end even agree with the other person and say I was wrong, because that happens. When it's in bad faith, it's bad for everybody involved, because it's bad for you, for the other person, and people reading those comments, right? Because there are other people in that sphere reading the negativity, which potentially may escalate, which looks bad overall, which creates a negative space. Nobody likes negative spaces, and just it's terrible. So like, if you ever have any feedback to a content creator, and if you do it in good faith, just start with out of curiosity, or I genuinely want to know, or it can also sound passive-aggressive actually, so it's difficult. But if you're genuinely curious and it's out of good faith, it's fine. So, and then I welcome all those. But yet they do happen. Like especially with articles, it's very easy to misspell a word, for example.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Or maybe a copy-paste the wrong deck list, or like part of the deck list. Or maybe forget the deck name, or maybe the creator of the deck. Like there's so many things that can go wrong.
Or call a swamp an island, it just happens.
Exactly. Yeah. Or maybe confuse a card while writing. Makes up paragraphs. And that's also why there needs to be an editor on the other side, because we're still human, and if you're writing, let's say, at 10 p.m., because you've got a full-time job, there really needs to be some vetting system to catch those mistakes, and again, they really do happen. So, and it's really difficult to catch them, because if you have written the article, you know what it is about and it's going to be about. When you're rereading, your mind just fills in the blanks.
That's true, yeah.
You actually, literally cannot find those mistakes. I believe you cannot.
Unless somebody else shows them to you,
There
right?
has to be a third party.
This is why I'm happy that I don't write, I just talk, so yeah, that's all right.
I think also mistakes when talking are much more forgivable, because you just go with the flow and you keep talking, and when you're writing, there is more of an expectation. It's much better prepared because you had time, no time pressure, right? You could have reread it a few times, right? Which again doesn't really help that much. But yeah, I think those mistakes are much more punished.
I want to talk about my own experience real quick, because I think that your experience is a little bit more interesting to talk about.
Okay.
So let's keep the interesting stuff for after my
Right.
a little bit boring stuff, because Filipa said the most. I think that you really have to learn to distance yourself, right? That if people will always critique you for the most obnoxious reasons, like somebody doesn't like your voice. Like, I'm very loud on my YouTube channel. I don't know if somebody of you have seen it, but I'm not like, I scream a lot. I pride myself to be the loudest Magic player there is. And some people just write, I watch your content on mute. And there's something that I actually learned from CGB, thank you for that. It's something that is very important. I told him, thanks, but you're at least watching still. And that is something that you have to learn, and that you have to show the people. Like, even if you care, even if you're crying behind your beautiful sunglasses and tears running down your eyes, still act like you're the cooler person, like you're the bigger person, because people will always come up to you and be mean and tell you things that maybe aren't even true. Like, I had situations lately where somebody told me I did a mistake with a card, and I told him, my friend, this card does not even do that. 1 minute later, the comment was deleted. So that is what people like to do, especially on the internet. But it's also something, you could also just ignore all the comments. Like, there's a lot of YouTubers who don't even read the comments anymore, and I think that's also like a very important thing to do. Just ignore what people say, because there will always be haters, and people that just, maybe they're making their own content and they're like, it sounds weird, just forgive me for that, but maybe they're jealous of like your video is doing a little bit better than theirs, and they just throw shade at you. That will happen in no matter what you do. But it is something that like accumulates over time, you have the comments, but as Filipa said, there will always be more positive comments. Maybe people will ask you, why did you play this card instead of this, or you misplayed there. I'm also happy when people show me my misplays, because I talk so much during my videos that sometimes I actually misplay very bad. It happens. Maybe I catch it like the moment it happens, or maybe I catch it later, but I will catch it because people will tell you when you misplay. Trust me, if there's somebody Magic players love to do is to tell you that you are wrong. And that is something, but it comes in comments. And that is now a point where I think it's very hard for you as a streamer to work with negativity, because people actually tell you the moment it happens if something bad is happening.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that? Like, you have moderators, right?
Well, I mostly moderate my own chat.
Oh, you're doing it yourself?
Yeah,
so if somebody is really excessively being a bad person, you can just ban them right away, right?
Yeah, I just ban them. But I think there were some really interesting points also put up. First of all, important, think about the people that do support you and do care and do appreciate you.
Absolutely.
That's always something to keep in mind. And then the other thing that Skura spoke about, creating a negative space is the worst thing you can do. So if someone comments on your streaming and they say something super negative, going in on it is usually just not the way to go, because then all of a sudden everybody focuses on it, and then it just gets much, much worse all of a sudden.
Absolutely.
So I always, when someone is negative in my chat, I just try to keep it positive. But I do think compared to YouTube, I have a huge upside, because on you guys, there will be a comment, oh, you misplayed this, and when you didn't even do it, or you did the card wrong, you could have done this, you missed lethal. I can put the chat in their place. I'll be like, you're wrong, and this is why. And then they're
Setting
like,
your goons, right?
Oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, wait, yeah, you're right. But at the same time, I can also discuss plays with them, which, if I am wrong, I have no issue saying, yeah, you know what, you're right. Should have done that. Sorry, guys, move on. Just keep it going. Focus on what's happening, and yeah. But I, for sure, have had my fair share of negative comments, especially when I started off with some other games that I played. It was rough. But I feel in general, the Magic community is much more, at least compared to other games that I've played, much more forgiving, at least in my channel. Most people are definitely not as bad, and I don't really get a whole lot of negativity personally. You'll get the occasional. I actually had a funny story. I don't know how negative it is, but the last stream that I did, this whole thing where we're just like, I'm cooking up a deck. I don't know if you've used it.
Sorry, I didn't.
The whole thing where they're like, I'm cooking up a deck. She's cooking,
okay,
let her cook, let him cook. And someone came in my chat and they were like, you have cooking in your tags. I'm not seeing you cook. This is false advertisement. I'm like, hello? Guys, what's going on here? I just told him to go watch Gordon Ramsay on YouTube and move on. But that's just what you do. You just dismiss them. You just dismiss them. If they keep going, you ban them, you move on. That's it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that's also a good point, what you just said. Like, people will feel clickbaited sometimes.
Yeah.
And I had my fair share of clickbait titles. I will admit it. Like, I have no shame in that. I took a short break for Barcelona from content creation, and I called my last video "Goodbye and Thank You All." Just like because
right.
But
classic.
People clicked it, and from there on out, the video had a lot of new viewers that subscribed to my channel, because they were still entertained. And that is like one of the most important things, I think, that to come back to that topic. They've watched the first few minutes. They were like, okay, this video has a lot of views. Why? They watch it. But you should not overdo it. Like, don't call every one of your videos "Goodbye, I'm gone for good." Don't you do that, because people are unforgiving at a certain point.
People might have not done it. Maybe that's your way to go viral. Just every video, I'm leaving for real this time. Like
we talked about that yesterday, right? Was it with you with the chess channel? No, it was somebody else.
Yes,
it was you,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
that like Gotham chess.
Gotham chess.
Yeah, it's like a completely different thing. He plays chess on his channel, and like these videos were like, this is the last video ever or something.
Yeah.
But I think there's a certain point where people will just not forgive you. And that's also like, I view myself as a small content creator. A lot of people would maybe disagree because they're like smaller, which is all right. There's no shame in that. And there's a lot of big content creators that I'm looking up to. And like, there's a certain point where people will tune in because it's you. I think for you as a streamer, that's especially true, considering that you're a top 10 streamer for most of the time. Sorry, you said it. I will repeat it as many times as I can. Some people might not have heard it yet. So I think like the personality that you bring yourself to the stage, that is the content that you're doing, is very important. And there will be a certain point in time where the curve will not be, how do I call my decks? But I'm actually producing something that people want to see. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to call you out all the time, CGB, but I was very impressed. There was a video where you just called it, I built a spider deck. And I was like, he's so lucky that he can do that, you know? I just have to walk around and just call it the best deck ever created so that people click on it. But people will come and say, this is not the best deck. And they're right, you know? Not every deck can be the best deck. If every one of your videos will be called S-tier, never before seen secret deck that nobody has ever played and I beat everyone, and you just lose one single game, people will be like, yeah, you lost one game, so where's the win rate percentage on that? So that is also something that is like, try to find the balance, right?
I see that a lot on like YouTube videos, right? Like you have a deck that works great for you, and someone is in the comment, well, I tried it out, I went 1-5.
Happens to me all the time.
Baited.
All the time. Like I had a video where I try to be creative. Sometimes you try to be creative and not just repeat the same formula over and over again. And I said, I know this deck is good. I started playing, and after 7 games that I won, like in very fast, like I didn't even have like 20 minutes game time, and I tried to have like a certain length to my videos. I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep on playing until I lose. Because I saw actually a Mortal Kombat player, and he did it like, he fought until he lost. Like, one loss, the video is over. I tried it for my videos as well. I thought it's like a nice formula. And people were, and the deck is good. It was a mono-white aggro deck, and sorry, but mono-white aggro will always be a good deck as long as it has enough support. It always has its fair share of 3 drops that you can use, you know. That's something that's important. But people were still complaining. Like, I downloaded this deck, and I lost like 5 games in a row. That can happen with every deck. Like, first of all, 5 games is not a number that you should even like consider. I always tell those people, oh, I'm sorry to hear. That's all I do, because I still try to engage with my audience. I think that's very important, especially like for us small YouTubers, you know, if you have the time, it takes a lot of time still, reading all the comments, reacting to them, but almost every comment that I read gets a reaction. There's also some people that I straight up ban because they're like being, you know, unpleasant people to talk to. And you will realize that because, as you said before, you said it before, sorry, and you repeated it, creating this negative space, people will catch up on that. They will be like, oh, this is something that I don't like. I had a comment once, and I think that changed a lot about how I created content. I complained during the whole video. I had a bad day. Like maybe I shouldn't have done a video, but I wanted to, because I want to do a video every single day. And somebody said, you know, I'm coming home from work. I totally understand that drawing 7 lands in a row is not cool, but I want to relax. I want to enjoy myself. And you're the person that I want to watch to enjoy myself. And if you're complaining that much, I would tune out. Like I will watch 2 videos. And there's some people, I told it to my girlfriend, and she was like, oh man, that's such a negative person. I was like, no, this is the best comment I had in the last year. Because from that I realized people want to be entertained. They don't come to you exclusively to learn. They will come to see the deck, and that's 2 minutes. But if you want the people to stay, if your retention is very important, especially on YouTube, you have to be entertaining. And if you're like complaining the whole time, people will tune out. And I realized that myself. I watched other games, people, and there was like one person that started complaining in every video. And after the 2nd, 3rd video where they were just complaining the whole time, I couldn't watch it anymore. It wasn't enjoyable anymore. So
it's just important to remember that people that actually actively search for content love the game. And if you're just sitting there like being all negative because everything goes wrong for you, those people you will not keep.
True.
Right? It's just always, I feel like one of the most important things to do is just trying to stay positive, even when things go bad. You know, I've drawn 10 lands in a row, like, you know what, we keep moving, guys, we keep moving. And that's what, sometimes I have people in my chat, they ask like, I go sometimes on losing streaks that last for however many games, how do you do it? And it's just like, you just got to figure out how variance works with trying to stay positive, and especially for your audience and when you're trying to keep them, is I think a huge part of being a successful content creator.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, like something that I want to talk about, because we have 20 minutes left, and I still want, like, if somebody wants to ask some questions, we will have the time for that. A huge part of content creation is, like we talked about, is it passion only, or do you want to make it your job? I think a lot of people have the misconception that content creation is paying very, very, very well, and it's true. If you're like a Mr. Beast, for example, and every one of your videos has like several million clicks, or if you're like PewDiePie, you can do whatever you want, people will watch it. Yes, you can become a millionaire. But it's also very important that those are very different kinds of content than what we are doing with gameplay, for example. So I think, can you live from it? Yes, you can. If your standards are low for the first few years, you can live from that. Maybe later on you can say, hey, now that it's my job, I can actually like live from it and eat from it. But that's also like a huge part. You, for example, you two are doing it like half-time, and you decided to do it full-time very soon. Will you still keep your other job, or will you just stop completely and just doing content?
No, so I was 8 hours in my full-time job, and now I'm going to be 4 hours. So I'm decreasing, but I'll still have a main job. And the reason is because I've always heard that the artist struggles to create when he needs to create. So I tried, because for my personality, like I just try to take that need, so then I can just have fun with it. And that's the biggest tip I give, is like some people can do it full time, and we see examples here of people doing it great. For me, it just doesn't work. And if you see you're trying to stream full time or doing something full time and it's not working for you, it doesn't need to be yes or no, because in life we need balance. So sometimes it can be just dedicating a bit of your life, not all of it, you know? So some people do it all the time and it works. Some people do nothing. For me, in life, I like to have balance, so that's my goal with these things.
But I mean, look at you. Like, you know, you're still doing content, but you're still doing amazing events, like hosting here, for example. Together with Skura, you're doing the European Championships. Will, for example, that's also like now casting the Pro Tour and everything. So even if you do it half-time, you can still achieve a lot during that time. And like for me, I was blessed. Like I said, I'm going to do it full-time. Well, I still had another job, so I just did the other job a little bit on the side. It wasn't that much time consuming like your jobs, obviously, because otherwise, but I could have done my job whenever. Like I could have, like in the middle of the night, just wake up and say, okay, I'm going to do my other job. And then I think it's also like an important part, the dedication that you talked about.
Yeah.
If you really want to make something like content creation or streaming your job, you have to dedicate yourself outside of even your own mind, because what you think might be right might be completely wrong. You have to be able to admit that what you're doing might be completely wrong and that maybe you're taking a completely wrong approach. Because I have seen a lot of people starting content creation that just didn't take off. Like maybe they were not entertaining enough, maybe they didn't put their heart in it, maybe there was something that people didn't like about them. And the reason those people had to stop was because they didn't see their own faults, and I think that that is also like a very, very important part. But let's not talk about it. I just wanted to intersect it real quick because you talked about the passion. You're also doing it half-time, right? You're writing exclusively. Did you ever think about doing like more streaming or like YouTube videos or stuff like that?
Yeah, I did stream, mainly for Card Market. I did YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel, but not much is happening there. So I've tried everything. I've tried Twitch, YouTube, streaming, casting. I've tried it. And my conclusion is that Twitch and YouTube just take way too much effort if you want to keep your full-time job, and I do want to keep my full-time job, because you need to upload very regularly, you need to edit well, or if not, somebody has to edit it, but that costs money, right? At Twitch, you need to put the hours in, actual hours in, right? So I would have to, for example, work 8 hours and then stream for 3 more after work, but then that's 11 now, right? And I would like to have time for other things as well, preferably. So
you have time for other things?
Yeah, so in my case, YouTube...
Would you sleep?
Yeah, sleeping is great. The older I get, the more I appreciate it.
The older, look at this youngling right here.
Yeah, and so if you want to have like a full-time job, or even part-time job, I think YouTube and Twitch are going to be very difficult because of the raw hours you have to put in. Like with writing, I can at least split it into, let's say, I will write the intro in the morning, do my things, lunch break, finish this here, and it somehow works. With casting, I do it during the weekends, which on the one hand, it's great because it doesn't interfere with the job. On the other, it just makes my work week longer because I just don't have weekends off, right? So it is balanceable, but you have to be very realistic about what's going on, right? Because I know that if I wanted to go with YouTube, and I've thought about it multiple times, I would need to find those 3, 4, 5 hours every single day, and you cannot find them out of thin air. So I would need to reprioritize. And then the question is to you whether you want to reprioritize, because maybe you don't. And I can just keep my writing, casting part. Also, the market is saturizing more and more. So like the more YouTubers there are, the more competition there is, the more unique you have to be, which is difficult. It's genuinely difficult, right? So now, to be fair, I believe that we're not taking away from the same cake. We can make the cake grow as well, so we can make the cake bigger.
And we all like cake, right?
So that's particularly an important point when it comes to cooperating, rather than looking at each other as competitors.
Absolutely.
But still, if somebody has, let's say, an hour a day to watch YouTube content, they can't watch all the YouTube content, right? They've got that 1 hour which they will dedicate. So yeah, it is rough. It is rough. But on the other hand, because I've got a full-time job, I can easily try things, and if they fail monetarily, that's not an issue, right? I can just do it out of curiosity, out of passion, out of interest. If it works, it works, right? Because I've got this monetary support every day, right? Quitting the job and going YouTube full-time to see what happens would be highly irresponsible. So I advise against that.
Yeah.
You're very lucky to be able to live off your job, right?
Yeah.
So would you say like, you do YouTube sometimes,
Yeah, sometimes.
right?
I started like 2 months ago, 3 months ago to try and do something extra.
So, do you think it is more likely to be possible to live off streaming or of YouTube? Like,
well,
do you live comfortably? Would you say that you're like doing very well, or do you say that no, not
comfortably,
at all?
comfortably enough.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that is
Yeah.
what I was talking about before. Like you cannot expect too
No,
much.
no,
but
no,
what
definitely
you
not,
get-
definitely not. And it must be said, like Magic the Gathering, sometimes the game costs money to play. Sometimes people will just save up their money, right, to buy a new card, which 100% understandable. But yeah, that obviously makes the difference in whether or not you can be super successful, make a lot of money on Twitch or not, right? But when it comes to what is easier done full time, there are some ways to, I wouldn't say break Twitch, but to become successful. I remember I was in LA once, and I averaged about, what would I say, like 250 viewers, which is still a lot, but it's nowhere near, well, what I'm doing right now. And I was with a bunch of other creators that were able to do things full time and were able to, live off it. And they were like, you want to make it on Twitch, give them no choice but to click on you. If you are there, and this is how the top streamer in Magic got there. Give them no choice. Be live as much as you can. People will click on you. There's times during the day when the viewers are very low and like the top streamer has got like 150 people. If you are there and you're there every single day, they will click on you eventually. And that's when it's important to act the same to one person as it is to like 100 people. You captivate them, they will come back, especially if you're there every single day for them. And Twitch is much worse when it comes to that, right? If you you take a week off, they'll forget about you.
Absolutely.
That's the way it is. On YouTube, you can have some stuff lined up, but on Twitch, if you are there all the time, you will take off.
You
it will
cannot
happen.
pre-record. You have to
you have
actually
to be there. You have to
and
be
that's
there.
also like a huge difference in content-wise, because a lot of people don't want to do like gameplay content.
Yeah.
There's also people that like maybe want to talk about certain themes. We have, for example, Spice 8rec behind the stage. Shout out. They don't do gameplay. They talk about various themes about like comedy and magic. So those are themes that you have to work on. They read books about it. They actually read articles. They talk to other people. They make interviews. And so that is something that is maybe once a month or maybe twice a month that you can do that kind of content, because there's a lot more work that is put into it. And so that's the huge difference. Like you cannot do something like that on Twitch.
Yeah.
You actually have to be there and be like every single day. Like maybe you can show your progress, but that is kind of it. We're getting close to the end. If there are any questions, please don't be shy. There's a microphone in the middle. If I see someone standing there, there's no spotlight. People will not see you, so don't worry about that part. If you have some questions, otherwise I would just keep on talking. Like that's what I do usually, just keep on talking. So yeah, if you have some questions, just please go to the microphone. I will see you and I will get your questions. If you have any questions, whatever it is.
I will add one point to the pre-recording stuff, because with writing, it's particularly convenient because I can write when I'm on a train or airplane or waiting for my flight. That's supremely convenient. I've had multiple situations where I just take my laptop with me in case there is a lot of downtime, which happens, and I've got, okay, half an hour. And it doesn't even have to be productive writing because it takes creative thought, which is difficult to master when you're tired. But I can, for example, find the deck list, paste the deck list, format the deck list, roughly write out the arguments without the paragraphs, so like do the pre-work for myself in the future. So it still collectively takes less time, while you couldn't record a YouTube video in your downtime, you know, when you're waiting for a flight, right? So that's certainly a very, very convenient part about it, yeah.
I also want to come back to something that you said, giving people no choice. That's very interesting, but also at the same time, I think like if you are there every single day, like why do telenovelas work the way they do?
Yeah.
Because people just get used to watching it. And even if like the story isn't that good, maybe, I can't talk about personal like experience, I never watched those, but I remember the times that I came back from school and I watched like anime, you know, and the stories were progressing, and I think that's also like something that is very important. People will stay for you, you know, they will come back, and if they're missing one day, they will feel it. Like for them it's weird, they will just be like, there's a day without my favorite streamer, YouTuber, I miss them, you know, and they will tell you as well, and that is a very good feeling. We have very brave souls standing right there in the middle. Thank you very much. If you have a question, please shoot.
Hi. Yeah, so you guys have been talking a lot about how you spend a lot of time, and it takes a lot of time to do your jobs, and I'm curious if you have any extra time. Have you spent any of that time thinking about future opportunities or discovered opportunities for Magic or streaming in general? I'm thinking sort of about like I don't know. I'm curious if you have any predictions for the future about areas of content creation or areas in Magic that could be explored further, and just what you think about that.
I think that's a very, very good question. Thank you very much, by the way. Can we have some applause for this brave soul, please? I would just answer you first, and then we would just go ahead. Like for me, for example, I have various amounts of time that I have to spend to do a video, for example. Sometimes it just works, and I can like be done in 2 hours with recording. Sometimes it takes a lot of more of work. So. But I still always think, how can I improve? That is very important. How can I make more is always like a difficult question, because can you really do it? Like if you're just one person, for example, do you have the funds to, for example, do more, like how to say, content that takes more work? Like for example, a show like Game Nights, for example, I could never do alone. There's like a whole production team behind it, and there's like a lot of work. There's a lot of editors. There's like so much work that goes into that is outside of just doing the gameplay. And you have always to think about what are your possibilities, what can you do, and I think you have to do that actually, because if you stand still, people will move on. They will, like, even if you do the same kind of content, but you still have to like work on it, you have to improve it, you have to like grow as a content creator yourself. And it's not like only about the quality of your content, the camera and the microphone, stuff like that, but also the quality of, like, I like to say, entertainer that you are. So how can you grow on that? Maybe you want to make a second channel where you talk about something completely different. Maybe you want to do some more. Is it in your time? It should be. If you really want to do it and if you really want to live from it, I think it should be in your time. And if you're waking 8 to 9 hours a day, that's like what other people do as well. Like if you like work in a company, 8 to 9 hours, it's like normal, you know? You take your 1 hour lunch break, but then you go back to work. And if you have the time, you should invest it. Because every investment that you make, I want to talk about Mr. Beast here real quick again, every money that he made from his first videos, he invested in like making better and bigger videos, up to a point where he can just literally burn money in his videos and still make a living out of it. And that is like you have always to invest, like always go a step further of what you did before. Because if you stand still, people will keep on walking and you will just be forgotten. But that is my experience. Like, do you have any other experience?
So I've got 2 points here. So one, I ask yourself what I would like to watch or read which isn't there, / ask my friends what that is. Because maybe there is something that I would like to see or consume but isn't there. Now, it's actually pretty tricky to figure out, because we've got, like, we kind of box ourselves into thinking there are deck techs, gameplay, commentary, that's it. So it's very difficult to go beyond that because you think those are the only choices. So it's way more tricky than one would think, but that's one thing. So try to figure out what I would like to consume and isn't there. 2, I look at other non-Magic spheres, not even gaming. When we're interested in, I don't know, economics, politics, different areas, and just look what's done in those spheres. And maybe try to take some inspiration out of that. So maybe, I don't know, like a news format. Okay, maybe news format for Magic, but what do they do that makes it interesting? Okay, this and that. So that could be one way to do it, right? Or maybe just kind of borrow ideas from completely different areas, which could work. Now, they probably won't, but somebody has to try them to see, and then they could be a success or a flop. But if it is a success, you probably will monetize that area, which is great, right? If you're the pioneer of that idea. But then again, you'd have to invest the time to explore those, try it out, do it the best you can, see if people even respond, persist, because you can't stop after doing it twice. But yeah, so to summarize, think what I would like to consume in Magic content that isn't there, and take inspiration from non-Magic areas.
Yeah, and I would add to that when MrBeast started, as you said, the example, like, there's a lot of MrBeasts to get started and people that we don't know that we will know in the future. So your spot is not taken. It's the same with music. If you think about it, like, so many songs were already invented, but we have more songs and new songs getting every year out, and it's the same with Magic content. We don't need sometimes to reinvent the wheel, right? But the truth is that there's a lot of things to get explored, and Magic is one of those games that you can go about the lore, tell stories about the Magic lore. You have so much space to be creative. It doesn't need to be just gameplay. And even if it's gameplay, like, you can try just to play only with Planeswalkers, only try this format with cards that are only from this set. Like, you can try different and crazy and experimental things, and that's the cool thing about Magic. So that's my tip, is that you just try things out. A lot of things, a lot of time I am home and I'm thinking, oh, this video would be cool. And start small, because in the beginning it's just you, as you said. But if the idea eventually is good, another point I want to make about content creation is when to outsource. Because at some point you have to be like, I cannot do everything, and I don't have time to think about these crazy new ideas. Maybe I need to outsource something that I'm doing that someone else can do, for example, video editing, for me to think about these things. And that's like a step further. But yeah, I come up with creative ideas. Most of them I don't eventually use, but they're like, it would be so cool if I did this crazy thing. But yeah, a lot of people are doing, and there's a space for everyone. And maybe 2 years from now, you'll be here and everyone will be like asking for your autograph because you're doing this crazy thing that nobody ever thought about. And
yeah, if I think that 2.5 years ago, I didn't even do videos, and now I'm sitting here because I just put in all the work and the passion. I'm very proud. Like, every one of us has a right to be here, and so does every one of you, if you are willing to put in the work. Don't expect things. For you with streaming, like, I saw that you're also very creative. You have you have to work a little bit different. You have to get people to sub, for example, so that if you sub, you can change cards out of my deck.
Yeah, that's something I've
like
done. Yeah, it's been interesting, but that's something that's definitely I don't see a lot of people do. You can give chat the power to put in the worst card in Magic in your deck. All of a sudden, all right, you got a new subscriber with you. I also wanted to say at point, or at least I feel, an underexplored avenue in Magic the Gathering content creation, which you see a lot in other sectors: speedrunning. I barely see people speedrun, and I've been thinking about doing it for myself a little bit, but there's so many ways that you can speedrun Magic that you don't even see that much. There's actually a Magic thingy on speedrun.com that you can use. Yeah, there is. And I don't see it much, so that would be one avenue that you could explore, but there's much more examples of that. But I think what Skura said, looking at other games and things that are successful there, grabbing something and applying it to Magic is definitely a way to get to underexplored pieces of content creation.
Also, be brave. Just be brave. Like, in all honesty, what's the worst that could happen? If the video doesn't do good and you're like ashamed of it, maybe you can just delete it. Nobody cares. Nobody will come knock at your door and slap your face for a bad video that you did. You have to experiment. You have to try. You have to just go for it, you know. And that's the worst thing you can do is just not do it.
Exactly.
Like,
that's the worst thing you can do is just not doing anything, not putting anything out.
I wish we could be talking even more because like there's so much more that I want to say, but I think also you as well. But I always have more that I would like to say. At this point, I really want to thank Wizards of the Coast for giving us the opportunity to sit up here and talk about our passion. I'm very, very happy with it. Also, me personally, I want to thank Gina and Leonora for always taking care of the content creators. Greg and Kelsey that I haven't met yet, but I wrote emails to them, so they also helped us out a lot get here, and I'm very, very happy about that. And yeah, I also wanted to thank Game Nights for being right after us, you know. I mean, it's hard to, after us, do a show and everything, but I think they will be doing just fine. Yeah. So I want to thank Filipa. Huge applause for Filipa, please.
Thank you.
Also, good job on the main stage every single day. Skura, Ashlizzle, my name is MTG Malone, and we will see you all next time. Thank you very much.